What about, is there the equivalent of a Netflix tax in digital services? So basically, if it is that you're a technology company, presumably with no permanent establishment in Malaysia, Sabah, Malaysia, but they are providing services to customers or clients in Malaysia, would they be taxed? If so, how and how much?
Okay, this is called as digital tax, technically.
Right.
Okay. As I told you, GST is not coming back, so they have to look on SST and expand it where they can to make more revenue. Okay, so one of it, what you say is recently, I think it's 2020, not mistaken, there was they implemented this foreign service provider, FSP, digital foreign service provider, need to register for SSD, for any digital services provided in Malaysia, if your threshold reaches 500K per annum. Okay, it's compulsory. That means the company is not registered in Malaysia, but you're from overseas, you're doing business with Malaysia, you need to register. So this Netflix all fall under that category, and they have to register. The rate still same 6%.
Okay. Now, so that's with a technology company like a streaming platform. But what about a service provider? There's a consultant sitting in Singapore and providing consulting services online to clients in KL or Penang. Okay. Would that SST apply to them as well?
Yeah, because we have another clause also, imported services tax. Okay? Because you see, if initially there was no, when they introduced the service tax, there is no such thing. Then they find out that a lot of companies are getting advice from overseas rather from Malaysia, because they have to pay this 6% extra. Okay, because you go for Singapore, elsewhere means you don't pay the 6%. So they say, based on that, they amend the act. They say, if you are getting the services from overseas, it's related to your business in Malaysia or anything to do your sales, your good related in Malaysia, you have to top up 6% and you pay to the customs. Okay, that means you pay 100% there, but you top up another 6%. That means they have to take it out from your own pocket, the 6%, and pay to the customs. So their responsibility falls on the payer.
Yes.
Rather than the service provider, because the service provider is not registered. That's why they have to come out with such a rule.
You're right. And so I imagine that'll be easy to police if it's a corporate customer, because then they want to deduct the expenses on their income statement, right? So then, there's a built-in incentive to comply. Whereas if suppose the service provider in Singapore, wherever, is providing it to individuals in Malaysia, not to companies in Malaysia.
Yeah.
How does it work there?
Individual, no, it's for business only, the service tax, technically.
Okay, right. Okay, gotcha. Perfect. Understood. And let's switch over to Singapore.
Okay, Singapore has some similarity with Malaysia in terms of digital tax. And obviously, since 2020, I think, Singapore started the digital tax. So I still remember in the past, I subscribed something from the web, the domain. Like that, I don't see the GST thing coming up. But I mean, since 2020, I saw, right, GST. So that answer the question. For overseas vendor, like I remember subscribing from an Australian vendor. So they don't have any establishment here. So, but the invoice that I get is now GST. So what happened is, that means they actually register for GST. In fact, we did, what happened, a very good case to showcase is one of the university. In fact, we have a few universities client from. So what happens is, during COVID, they do a lot of online courses and also university courses over on the web. I mean, by web. So they just get us to register GST because they are overseas vendor that provide service in Singapore. Right. So this is a very good example. So yes, for that's one more rule just applying in effect this year, 2023. So what happened is this I think is the overseas vendor scheme, something like that. Okay. So what happened is, if you are not a GST register, essentially if let's say I'm a company but I'm not GST registered, I procure service from overseas. So importer service, like what Ravi says. So I have to actually do a reverse charge GST. So to say, let's say I buy a 10,000 goods, I will have to add 8%, $800 on top of that, and I pay GST to the government. But if I'm a GST registrant, so there is no meaning to do that, because eventually I will claim back my input tax. So there's no need to do that. So this will affect those non-GST registrants, which is why I said it makes sense to register for GST.
Is there any de minimis? Is there any minimum, or the first?
Yes. The threshold is still the same, but I think for the overseas vendor piece is down to 100,000, something like that. Yeah. Okay.
So if you procure services from outside of Singapore that is 100,000 Sing or more, you need to add GST to that.
No, you have to charge GST for now. Yeah, but I think the overseas vendor scheme is the threshold is if you do make a B2C supplies on goods and remote services, such like digital services, then to Singapore exceeding 100,000. Okay, the threshold is 100,000, and obviously your global turnover is what, 1 million. Then you have to get yourself registered. That is the OVR regime.
Okay. So it will be so the 1 million threshold still applies. So if your turnover is less than 1 million, you don't need to worry about the overseas registration.
Yes. So if you are overseas vendor, let's say if I'm an overseas vendor, my turnover globally is 1 million, and I do supplies to Singapore. Yeah. Let's say Singapore domain. For exceeding 100,000, then I have to do.
Right. Okay. Crystal clear. Gotcha. Thank you very much.
So if you're a 6, 7, or 8-figure investor, entrepreneur, or business owner who needs a tailor-made solution from a qualified team of professionals, we can help you achieve the international lifestyle, the freedom, and even the tax savings you're looking for. Visit us at htj.tax and live that international life.